Okay, let's call this meeting to order. My name is Tom Guile, the chair of the Citizens Involvement Council. As those who are watching on TV may know, this is a gathering of all the neighborhood associations representatives. And we are here to hear some of our guest speakers talk about new developments and other situations in our community. Chris.
Berkeley Hills, Amanda Lamar. Walter White. Kenema, Howard Post. Paul Edgar.
Here. Howard's out of town.
Larry Hanlon, Caulfield.
Here.
Rachel Gunderson, Chamber of Commerce. Here. Kathy Hogan, Hazel Grove. Here. Tom O'Brien, Hazel Grove.
Here.
Ray Gordon, Hillendale. William Gifford, Hillendale.
Here.
Damon Nagy, McLaughlin. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Bill Daniels, McLaughlin. Here. Alice Watts, McLaughlin. Here. Tom Guile, Park Place.
Here.
Steve Van Haverbeek, Park Place.
Here.
Patty Brown, Rivercrest. Bruce Danielson, Rivercrest. Ingrid Rickenbach, South End. Here. David Rickenbach, South End. Here. Linda Orson, Main Street, excused. That's it.
Thank you very much. We have 3 guest speakers this evening. As in the conversations earlier with Chris and with my counterparts William and Larry, what's his name, Larry? We thought we'd make the, not a motion, but just a suggestion that, we usually take 2 hours in this meeting, but we don't have to take 2 hours in these meetings. Most information can be done within an hour, the kind of stuff that we're discussing. And so it would be nice to start trying to get our meetings shortened, condensed a little bit, pull back some of your comments and speeches and ask pertinent questions. But let's see if we can't get this meeting done in a good amount of time. Yes, just a moment. Before we get to the guests, though, Damon maybe asked if he could address us.
Good evening, thank you. Damon Maybe with McLaughlin Neighborhood. As most of you know, we do snow cone sales at Concerts of the Park. Last year we opened up the availability for other neighborhoods to sign up to do that. And 3 neighborhoods did participate. They received $50 each for their neighborhoods as part of their share. We will be doing that again this year. I'll be coming back in the July meeting with an actual sign-up sheet, but I wanted to get the information to you so you could go back to your various neighborhoods and see if there was any volunteers. It'll be the same methodology we did last time. There'll be a matrix, and with 24 blanks, we need 3 for each concert, 8 concerts. Everyone you fill in with, Park Place or Hazel Grove or whatever, with a volunteer who does actually show up, then you'll get 1/24th of a share. And so, however, that works out. If you show up for 3 times, that's 3/24, 20, whatever. But it was 3 neighborhoods last time, and they received $50 apiece for their neighborhoods. So it's a nest egg. I just want to let you know about that, and we'll be back in July.
I was going to say, you're going to be back, so if somebody's interested, how should they contact you?
Myself or Denise McGriff, if you're interested, before I come back in the July meeting with an actual sign-up sheet. So anyway, just want to let you know so you have time to get back and talk to your people.
Thank you. Thanks, Damon. We all introduced ourselves up here, and as we said, we like to keep it down, but we have some guest speakers tonight and other guests in the room, so we thought we'd go around quickly through the room so we can all identify who you all are out there. So if we could start over here and work our way around. Could you please just say who you are and if you're with one of these clocks? Great, thanks. Well, over that side. Okay. Terrific.
John Valley with the U.S. Senator Jeff Murphy's office.
See that. Okay. Great. Great, thank you. Hi. Terrific, thank you. What neighborhood? Are you in one of the, or is in Kenema? Terrific, thank you. Okay. Great. Terrific, thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. I'm sorry, did we miss it? Oh.
I'm Nancy Craftshaw, the City Engineer and Public Works Director.
Thank you, sorry. And Chris, I think you,
I'm Chris Taylor, Oregon City Police and CIC Liaison.
thanks. As our guest speakers tonight, each of them has a few minutes of presentation with some questions. John Valley will start off. He's the field representative for U.S. Senator Jeff Merkley. Take about 10 minutes for a presentation with 5 minutes of questions. And then we have John Flanders of Providence. That's about 20 minutes with 10 minutes of questions. And Randy Tyler on the waterfront condos, and that's 20 minutes to 10 minutes. If you don't need your full 20 minutes, terrific. If not, we'll be patient with you. We appreciate you being here. So let's start with John Valley. If you please approach.
Sure.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Do I need to say anything other than who I am?
No.
For the record or anything?
This
Use it testifying.
Wave the right hand.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna tell the truth, the whole truth. Well, thank you for the invitation. My name is John Valley. I'm the Clackamas County and Washington County field representative for Senator Merkley. In the spirit of trying to keep this short, I don't know if I'll need the entire time allocated, but certainly appreciate it. The reason I'm here tonight, I want to talk to everybody. I was at the Clackamas County Community Congress last month and was able to run into Secretary Gifford over here, and thought it would be good for me. Part of the presentation or the theme for that night was citizen outreach and making sure that people were staying connected to their elected officials and vice versa. And I thought from that meeting it would be good for me as the Senator's Clackamas County field rep to do some outreach to some of the neighborhood associations. Secretary Gifford had indicated that there was this opportunity where all the neighborhood associations from Oregon City came together and met to talk about a variety of different issues. And I thought, wow, I'd love to have the opportunity to come and listen, learn about some of the local issues that are going on here in Oregon City, but also to introduce myself as a good local point of contact if people had issues or concerns that they wanted the Senator to be aware of, that they don't necessarily have to call DC, they can contact me. And been on staff for about 2.5 years now, since the Senator was sworn into office in January of 2009. And during that time, I've tried to stay connected with a lot of the community leaders in both Clackamas County and Washington County, elected officials, chamber presidents, and other members of the community that have sort of an interest on some of the issues that the Senator works on from the federal policy level. Don't know if everyone knows the committees that the Senator sits on, but I can go over those real quick just so you have a sense of what kind of issues that he faces day to day from a committee perspective. He sits on the Budget Committee, and I am sure we will be hearing a lot about what's going on in the Budget Committee over the next several weeks, if not months. He also sits on the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee. That committee has a very large portfolio of issues. One that will be coming up over the next few months that you might hear a lot about is the Elementary, Secondary, and Education Act, or it used to be known as No Child Left Behind. The federal kind of Education Reauthorization Act is up for reauthorization this year, and the committee is planning to take that issue up. Another committee the Senator sits on.
What does the L stand for?
Labor.
Labor.
So Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions.
Thank you.
Another, as it relates to labor, if people are familiar with the Workforce Investment Act, that piece of legislation will also be going through that committee. The Environmental and Public Works, or the EPW committee, is one that also has a major piece of legislation coming through it. It's called the Transportation Reauthorization Bill. I know a lot of folks in both Clackamas County and Washington County have a number of infrastructure projects that are hopefully going to get funded through that process, and some of the policy decisions that will be made in that bill will impact some of the long-term planning that happens here in the region. And the Senator does sit on that committee. And the final committee he sits on is the Banking, which is also Housing and Urban Development. There are a number of different issues ranging from financial regulations to transit issues, which again is a big part of the transportation package that we'll be going through this year. So the senator has a very large domestic portfolio, which focuses a lot of his staff time and energy. But as a U.S. senator, he covers a number of different issues. Obviously, the countries in a number of armed conflicts across the world. He has strong views on those. And so any issue that members of the community feel like they want the senator to be aware of, as I said earlier, you could contact me. At the end of this meeting, if people want to talk to me one-on-one, I have my business cards that I'm willing to distribute. If interested, I brought in a little sign-up sheet if people want to get the senator's newsletter. It's a non-campaign informational piece only. You can unsubscribe if you don't want to get it in the future, but it's a way to stay up to speed with what the senator's working on, keep apprised of the things that he's considering a priority from his perspective, and it gives you another chance to weigh in if you like or don't like what he's doing. The other thing I'll just add, in my background, people sort of wonder, like, how do you work for a U.S. Senator? What do you do, or what did you do before you came here? For a long time, I was a advocate. I was the Government Affairs Director for the American Heart Association here in Oregon for over 5 years. I'm actually still wearing my Go Red for Women red dress pin. I worked on a lot of issues down in the state capital in Salem, ranging from tobacco prevention to obesity prevention types of programs. I also worked at the American Cancer Society for a couple of years, so I have a lot of background in the public health side of things. But during my tenure with the senator, I've been exposed to a number of different issues. My role as a state field representative is sort of know a little bit about a lot of things. I'm not the policy content expert on one particular issue area that is housed in the D.C. office, where the senator has staff that are focused on his committee assignments and particular legislative issues. I range on a variety of topics, which allows the senator to, again, stay connected to people here in the state. And that's my role, to make sure people have a voice, to make sure the senator knows what's going on here in the community. And with that, hopefully I didn't take up too much time. It was hopefully under 10 minutes. And I wanted to, at least for a brief amount of time, open myself up to any questions people might have about what the senator is doing or my role with his office.
You got great exercise there with your neck.
Would you like to pass out your business cards? I mean, we can just hand them out.
I can, and I can also pass this around too with it.
We can just send it around.
For the sake of John as well as John and Randy, the other presenters, our comments there about being more concise was more for us up here who sometimes go on and on than it is for you out there. We're here to hear what you have to say, but sometimes we tend to editorialize, and I'm trying to keep it down to questions.
Well, yeah. Politicians, if you give them too much leeway to talk, will just take up the whole time, and staff are no better. So,
any questions for John?
I'm happy to answer from those.
Paul?
Hi, thank you very much for coming in.
Sure.
My name is Paul Edgar. I'm from Kenema area, and one of the areas of significant concern to me is economic development. And one of our problems here is a very highly congested section of I-205 between Stafford and through Oregon City. It's an impediment to level of service costs to all businesses or prospective businesses or prospective investors. When you're at level of service F for 5 to 6 hours a day in prime time, the cost riddles businesses. We need to get that fixed. Congresswoman Hooley had been very successful in securing funding some years back that allowed for the widening from Stafford out to I-5. And the infrastructure is quite adequate now when you're looking at it in the sense that it has now the ability to have 4 lanes, so the aprons were fully developed for expansion. But for us in Clackamas County, we need to get this corrected. And we see an overt attention being placed upon obligating the next 20 years funding for a CRC project. And this then means that you won't have the money to come to Clackamas County to do what we critically need to create jobs and investment. So, as a person who is fairly knowledgeable on the subject, I would only implore you to really take a deep look at the CRC project and a much deeper look on the needs of Clackamas County in an area like Oregon City, which desperately needs economic development and jobs. And correcting that one section of I-205 can play a big piece in creating or changing the attitudes of people, because it won't be congested if you do the job right.
Okay, that was a minute and a half question.
Well, what I can say is that Citizen Center does sit on the Environmental Public Works Committee. As part of his staff, knowing that the transportation reauthorization bill is coming through that committee, I have certainly made sure that I've been going to JPAC meetings. Those, I think, probably in the room are familiar, but if not, the Joint Policy Advisory Committee on Transportation. I was at Metro, where all the regional partners come together to talk about transportation policies, the short term, midterm, and long term. And I also work with the local electeds at the county level and here in Oregon City to understand some of those priorities that have been identified. So when the center is approached about what projects do we want to see funding in various parts of your communities back in Oregon, I can at least say, well, here's what I've been hearing from the elected officials from those communities. I've certainly heard about the Sunrise Corridor, which I'm not sure if that impacts Stafford or not. I don't think it does.
These trucks can't get to Stafford.
Right, I know. That one has been prioritized. When it comes to simply that area, I have not had a specific request made to me. If you want to email me some information about that project, I know I've heard some recent information about that area making a request to Metro recently. I remember reading about that in the Oregonian. I don't know if that's related to this particular issue or not, but I'm certainly happy to take that information, and I'm certainly in the process of representing the center with these communities in mind, making sure that we're working with the elected officials that have responsibility on sort of ranking and prioritizing all those transportation projects. And I know I've heard of some in the Clackamas County area. I'm not sure if that one's risen to that level.
Politics plays a major role in your priorities, and I'm just trying to make sure you understand that there is a priority for Clackamas County that's not the same as what JPAC.
Right. And I understand there's a different dynamic there, and it's always good for me, and this is one of the reasons I'm here, to hear what other people in the community are saying are priorities for them.
Before we run out of time, just a quick question. What does Senator Merkley, what is the banking committee? Is that the same one Barney Frank, when we saw hearings on TV, is it the same committee?
Well, it's the House. So the senator sits on the Senate banking, which is also housing.
Similar.
That's similar. It was when I think of Barney Frank, a lot of the times you hear the Dodd-Frank bill. Senator Dodd was the chair of the Senate committee that worked with House chair at the time, Barney Frank. So it's similar. It's a little different because the House and Senate are set up differently, but it's basically the same thing. In the House, it's called the Financial Services Committee. In the Senate, it's the Banking Committee.
Okay, terrific. And I believe, Nancy, you had a question.
Yeah, I just wanted for information for the CIC, and we meet with each other occasionally. The CRC project is very important for the region, but JPAC does also try to stress that really has national significance. So it really is in a different category than some of the local regional projects such as I-205 between Stafford and Oregon City. And I think that's been communicated to DC. So you could be slightly reassured, Paul, that they're trying to sort of create a difference in what would be more of a nationally supported project, national significance versus a regional significant project.
All right, let's move on. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Did you?
I just want to do a quick question about high-speed rail.
Yes.
Does Senator Berkeley have any conversations with DEC and Clackamas County and other counties about high-speed rail to our corridors?
Yeah, I mean, he's familiar with some of the projects that have been identified for where the next high-speed rail lines are coming. More than the Walkway Rail. On the west side, there's a plan for 99W and Barber Avenue. in Washington County, so we are familiar with the proposal they're moving forward. My understanding, the Milwaukee Light Rail is going to actually start this summer, and we're going to go over the process and are familiar with those projects.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. 7:22, we're making good time. John Flanders. Do I sound like I'm overly concerned about time tonight? Just want to get you out in a good timely manner.
Drawing of the proposed change, so that's probably
Well, mainly I think so everybody can see it probably on the corners of the room. The Coves is coming up later, so maybe you can even put it in front of the Cove just temporarily.
Through the theater and around here.
Or you can just stand and kind of hold them like this, like you're sitting here in the round. Okay.
All right, thank you for inviting us and allowing us to come and talk to you for a few minutes. I'm John Flanders. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Providence Willamette Falls Medical Center. I think you're probably aware that Willamette Falls community or hospital affiliated with Providence in 2009, and we're in the process of working on a strategic plan for Clackamas County. Part of that plan now includes submitting a master site and facility plan for the next 10 years to the City Planning Commission. And
Can I interrupt you for a minute?
Sorry?
Seems like we're blocking a lot of people out. Is there a way we can just set that up over here in this area? Sure. So people don't have to get up and move. And if need be, we'll hold it up during the presentation. Sorry to interrupt you, but you guys can come up here and do your presentation. It's entirely up to you.
Sure.
Okay.
Fine. Oh, you're good.
Thanks, John.
Sure, you're welcome. So we're in the process of submitting a master site and facility plan for the development of the campus to the Planning Commission and the City Council of Oregon City. This is the current draft of that plan. It includes the development that we envision for the campus over the next 10 years. You'll see specifically there's a surgery addition right there behind the current surgical services department. There's a new front entrance that we're planning to build, and then a planned addition of beds to the birthplace, which are obstetric.
This
is Division, and this is 15th. So we also are planning to pave the gravel parking lot that's here on this corner, and provisioning for the addition of medical office buildings both here and here into the future. So you can see we're planning to cross Division Street. We currently have our hospice service in a building on this property that we would tear down. So one of the reasons that we're in the process of doing this, we've kind of staged this as well, and this little green box here is a future utility plan for the campus should we need it. So we've cited it so we don't build other things around it or over it or whatever, make those mistakes that are costly. So we've planned this addition really for a couple of reasons. We completely remodeled the surgery suites in 2000 to 2001, expanded those from 4 suites to 6 suites, but didn't have sufficient funding to build a contemporary outpatient service. And because about 80% of the surgery we do today is outpatient, people come in on the same day and leave on the same day. We use an old, I use that carefully, but a overflow medical surgical unit a ways away from the surgical suite in order to care for patients before and after surgery. And that's not consistent with how the standard of care is today for surgery. And it doesn't serve us well in terms of efficiency and access for the surgeons. So we're planning an addition there. We're planning an addition to the front entrance so that we can have convert a 1960s design with a lot of small little rooms and not very much wayfinding for our public who are increasingly becoming older, like myself. That we're gonna open it into a mall. Probably the more significant issue is trying to provide, security for the front of that building. As people that are aware, we have a front entrance for the main hospital and a separate front entrance for Birthplace. Birthplace has a lot of glass in the front of its entrance. That's a significant security issue for us in terms of infant security, and it's kind of a confusing mix of corridors there, that's difficult to secure. So we want to close that into a single access point, so we have a single point of access at the front of the hospital. It'll look attractive like the rotunda that we put around the emergency department, but more so it's for security, and then kind of a mall where we can have admissions and services like that. And then the potential for the addition of some beds on Birthplace. As we grow and the community grows, we've seen a growth of almost 100,000 residents in the last 20 years. Our projections show us that we'll see an increase in residents into the future. We're looking at somewhere around 8% in certain of the communities that we serve. In Clackamas County, we know that it's one of the largest banks of developable land in the metro area, and so we're envisioning that growth and partnering as we have with Providence. We want to provide those services. Our mission is to provide care to members of our community, whether they're able to pay for those services or not. We're very well aware of the economic situation in Clackamas County and the loss of jobs. We are experiencing that as painfully as you are in terms of people that need care, and we're willing to provide that care, but certainly not being reimbursed for that care. So we want to continue to provide a contemporary facility for the community and grow with the community, and so that's what the plan envisions over the next 10 years. So with that, I take questions. I think that would be.
Do you have another display over here? Is there a purpose for that one?
This provides an aerial view of the campus that doesn't.
We can't just spend it too long.
You
can just right up here and talk from there.
This was the most recent aerial view of the campus that was shot right after the construction of the diagnostic imaging department. Diagnostic imaging department and emergency department. So again, this is the business street here. A couple of years ago, we added, this addition to the building. The emergency department at the front, diagnostic imaging is behind it. We closed the circuit of the campus completely to be within the campus. Improved access for the nursing home that's on our campus as well. And so it just gives you an idea of the footprint. This is the medical office building. These are the 2 medical office buildings. This is the parking structure that we built. And then the surgery addition would come in here. Birthplace is here, so we go into just this little parking lot in the front of the building. And the new addition would enclose this area right here, where the circular drive is, in order to deal with that. So this is a review of that.
Oh, no, I'm not by.
We haven't answered any questions.
Right over here. Question?
Yes, when you look into the future, do you have sufficient land to accommodate the expansion?
I think we do. The plan that we've developed is to build and tear down. So replace on site and recycle the campus over time. So we own a number of the properties across the street as well. You can see that, and so we've encompassed some of that into our planning so that we create a as concise or compact a campus as we can and still grow as we need to serve the community.
William.
Referring to, where did that one go? Referring to this other diagram, I know that a couple of years ago, that Denise McGriff and I looked at the last master plan that she had, and one of the concerns that we had was the area of these pieces of property that are sort of diagonal across there, and the mass of those in relation to the residential properties next to them, and the fact that we didn't want any 2- and 3-story buildings shading, if you will, the residences there, and I know that the hospital owns a lot of that property or is in the process of acquiring it. I just want to know what the plans are for the long-range plans for those.
You can see the medical office buildings that we've built. Those are planned to be about 10,000 square foot buildings. That could be, I don't think we've planned on what that height would be. It wouldn't be any more than a two-story building like we built the other ones.
But there won't be a parking lot across there?
There may have to be a parking structure sometimes just to be able to accommodate the traffic and the parking, but it would also be in conjunction with those buildings. So it would be, you can see how we integrated the parking structure a number of years ago into the landscape. So we built a flat parking surface. We built the majority of the garage below ground and secured the hillside with concrete. So, you know, we would try and do some of the same things in order to keep the look of the campus. And we do envision that that's going to become more of a boulevard. I might say the nicest looking part of Division Street is in front of the campus with sidewalks and bike lanes and all sorts of things that we've done. So we would envision continuing to do that with trees and other things to improve the look.
Are there further questions?
There was one over here.
Oh, the gentleman? We were wondering who the gentleman was that came in. That's who?
Bruce Danielson.
And then I have my,
Yes, Bruce, you had a question?
I heard that you were considering putting a second-story building in the back end of the hospital.
That was one of our concepts early on before we affiliated with Providence, and it was actually a 5-story structure, but it was to replace the entire inpatient care area to create the footprint that we needed to tear down the rest of the hospital and build back toward Division Street. But we've not envisioned that now. We don't envision we'll need that growth. More of what we do is related to outpatient work, and so we don't have that plan, at least for the next 10 years.
I have a quick question on this. When I drive down, is it Washington Street, and there's that other building that's down there, isn't that part of Providence now too?
Our community health education.
And I don't see a lot of cars. Is that still being used, or is it going to have a function in the future?
It has a lot of usage, actually.
I don't see a lot of cars there every day like I used to.
Right. The hospital doesn't use it as much as Providence in general does. Our property division manages that. But we use it for lots of community-related activities, particularly nonprofits use it. But we also use it for educational programs that people pay for and rent that space. So it's actually quite useful.
Okay.
but then I was wondering, so the affiliated with Providence, is that Providence on Gleason?
Yes. It's Providence is a 5-state system. So it ranges from Alaska through California and east to Montana. So
all the doctors that are able to practice there, are they able to practice at the Gleason?
Generally it works the opposite way, so that the physicians there are many more physicians on Portland campus who would have an interest in taking care of patients in Oregon City now and South. So they generally ask to be privileged at our facility.
So you're in other words, the community is having a larger choice of medical providers.
Right. And that's the reason for really some of the medical office buildings to increase access to primary care physicians and then bring additional specialists into the community, so people, that live in Molalla or wherever don't have to drive so far really to get services that they currently have to get at.
Will I fall at this time have laparoscopic robotic surgery?
We don't do robotic surgery. Everybody wants to do robotic surgery. It's a $3 million piece of equipment. But we do that. We've done laparoscopic surgery for probably 25 years. It's a primary way that we do surgery these days. Less invasive.
For any more technical medical questions, please say on. There wasn't. Yes.
How far south do you consider your ideal customer base?
We serve really all of South Clackamas County, and we go north into the Gladstone, Milwaukee area. So we work very cooperatively with Providence Milwaukee Hospital in how we serve all of Clackamas County. We have a joint strategic planning council that looks at the whole county, and how we can best deliver services within the county. So our area really is Gladstone, part of Sunnyside, south into Molalla, kind of down to the Silverton area.
And then would be over Woodburn, Hubbard, Aurora.
Yes, we serve Woodburn, Hubbard, Aurora, Candy, really out to I-5 essentially.
Yeah, Paul.
Paul Edgar, and I understand that, and I'd like to get a kind of a clarification from you that the hospital really provides some extended services to a lot of people who have no ability to pay, and that this is wonderful, but and God knows that there's a lot of people out there that need your support. But the financial drain, can you confirm what percentage of your incoming revenue is written off?
I could tell you actually that in 2010, we provided $9.9 million in charity and community-related services to this area. So Providence as a whole has seen that community benefit go up by 61%. So from Providence, Oregon, just Oregon, $125 million in 2006, it's now $203 million. So I can show you that the Willamette Falls portion of that for just 2010 was $9.9 million. When I came in 2001, we had spent $600,000 that year in bad debt and charity care, we called it. So people that weren't able to pay or care that we had to write off because people didn't have the means to pay a residual part of their bill. That has grown to $9.9 million since 2001. So significant growth, not like on other people.
I want to personally thank you and thank everyone from Providence for what you do for so many people within our community. Thank you very, very much.
You're very welcome.
And
We do have a community benefits report that we would be happy to have anybody have, and I have some business cards.
And you thought you were just coming to talk about expansion? Never know what kind of questions you're going to get. Did you? Did I hear somebody here?
One quick question.
Sure.
Multiple question, Barclay. So the landlord didn't come up and all this stuff about green technology. Are you doing that? I mean, I'm sure you guys are, but with your building technology,
We are even the last building addition that we did. We looked at particularly building materials, flooring, furnishes, those kind of things in terms of the best green impact that they could have. I can't tell you what we'll do in terms of trying to compete with the county in green, but it is something that's constantly in mind, the impact on the environment and the cost of that. So, we just wanted to come tonight to make you aware that we are making the addition and to tell you that we are going to work cooperatively with the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association and having a neighborhood meeting. We hope that will be early July, so we hope you take that back.
Could you identify yourself too, being late?
Karen Montoya, former chair of South End Neighborhood Association.
Thank you.
I have one question. Of your bad debts, how many of those are assigned to collection agencies?
Bad debt itself is somebody that has a means to pay, and the bad debt itself is charity care is written off from the start. So we identify people up front using our financial counselors to determine whether somebody can pay or not. If they can't pay, if they don't have a means of support, we write that off up front. People that have a means to support themselves, whatever that may be, frequently end up with a portion of the bill that we call self-pay. Right? We turn that over to a collection agency. We attempt to collect that money, and when we're unsuccessful at collecting it over a period of time, we write it off.
Because I know some of the hospitals work, they send them all over, and they collect from people who aren't working, don't have any money, and then expect relatives to pay for it, a full amount, not a portion. Or they won't wait that person to ever get a job. So I'm hoping that you do what you say.
We do, we can provide you with our policy on how we handle charity care. And
Policy is one thing, but what you even do, that's why I wanna make sure that you do what you say you do.
Oh.
Because that's not always the case.
I understand. And we are a faith-based organization, and we provide care to people, regardless of their ability to pay. And it's one of the reasons I'm part of an organization like that. But, you know, Willamette Falls did that before it affiliated with Providence, because we tried to be good neighbors and good citizens, so.
Actually, the cost wouldn't be so bad if they had the primary care to begin with, to keep them from getting to where they have to have.
That's a whole different topic.
Yeah. It's the education of the primary care.
Well, you know, we understand, you know, our goal is to recruit 25 primary care docs over the next 5 years, and, because of the need in the communities.
Well, John, thank you for being here and giving that explanation. Appreciate it.
Thanks for your time.
It's now 20 to 8. We actually did that all within 20 minutes, so thanks, John. Next, we have Randy Tyler, Waterfront Condo, the Cove Project. Probably there, I think most people in the room.
Who is this one?
Yeah, there really isn't. Who thought of this room? Just kidding.
Who thought of this room?
Good evening, Chairman Tom and members of the council. I'm Randy Tyler, I'm part of the team.
It doesn't sound like it's on.
The mute button on the left.
Tell you what, I have a really good idea for you. Why don't you sit here and address out to everybody, and let's just do that right here.
Here comes the tech. Here comes the tech.
Okay, but he can speak better about there.
Back it off now.
So,
This is all coming off of your presentation.
Okay, Randy, go ahead and sit there. There we go.
So we appreciate your willingness to entertain us one more time. I think the last time we met with this group was in the fire hall. And we actually lost count of how many public meetings we hosted. It was somewhere, I think, around 17 at last count. And we have appreciated the input from the citizenry, and I know that community leaders have appreciated the fact that we've been willing to make changes in our program. In fact, early on, we had a proposal for some houseboats, floating homes in this area. I had mine picked out, but Doug Neely, Mayor Neely, informed us that this was actually a denning area for a variety of waterborne mammals, and suggested that we not develop that. So we did about 180. He said, well, then let's do this. Let's turn it into a wildlife sanctuary and not put any development out there other than just a chipped pathway and maybe a few benches for observing nature. And so when we think about the cove, I like to think of it in three elements. First is the habitat, and this peninsula is a good example of that. But habitat and environmental issues, and then economic development, and last but not least, recreational opportunities. And the habitat area is along here, and the area that's going to be considerably upgraded. We're going to improve both the quantity and the quality of the habitat in a variety of ways. One of the first ways is by taking the bank, which is extraordinarily steep now, and cutting that into a much more moderate slope. That will allow us to do a revegetation program that will consist of plants that are native and that are appropriate for that kind of riparian area. And we're not losing much because this is a very narrow corridor at present. So we'll be improving the quantity and quality. And when we talk about economic development, there's, well, the reason I asked the prior speaker about his need for additional property is we had, many of you may recall, Kaiser Permanente was going to build on this site. And with the recession, that opportunity fell through. There is a building, office building here that'll have 58,000 square feet, be a mixed-use building. It's got approvals to have a restaurant on either side of the building. And there's a 300,000 square foot pad for an office at this location with a big parking lot adjacent. And then there are a total of 196 condominium units along the waterfront and 210 units that are back in this area. So in terms of economic development, these office buildings will have a number of permanent employees. The total estimate is about 400 construction workers and about 400 permanent employees that will be added to the area. So that's a significant amount. If you think about a total of 400 units approximately, that's going to be in the range of 800 new residents. And these people are going to be looking for a place to shop, to eat. We'll have at least a couple restaurants on site, but they also will be very close here to the Oregon City Shopping Center. And really within walking distance in decent weather down to the Old Town, historical district of Old Town. And that should be quite a stimulus for people that have their businesses down in the traditional downtown area. What we're talking about this evening is your review of this in terms of the detailed development plan, which is a step in the process of land approvals. Just to bring you up to speed, the whole project has been approved through the master plan process, and then you go to individual phases. The first two phases in this case are the infrastructure. Phase 1 and Phase 2 will build all the roads, trails, parkways, utilities, the rehabilitation of the areas that had been in considerable distress. And that's a big part of what we're talking about. But getting back to the detailed development plan, we're talking about this area in here, the waterfront units. And that actually started out as it was approved for 224 units. And we went back and expanded the office and needed to reduce the number of condominiums. So we reduced it to 180 units. And then more recently up to 196 units. So that's what we're planning now. You may think that anybody that would want to build condominiums at this point in time must be crazy. And the objective here is that we would build these as condos, but lease them out until the market for condos revives. So that could be 4 or 5 years, something of that nature. In the meanwhile, the property taxes that would be coming in would be help the urban renewal district with this project and with other projects. And so that's kind of a quick summary of what we're looking at. The other thing that we're looking at is a modification, a minor change in the overall development plan. And that change has come about because these condos were originally designed with subterranean parking. And when we looked at the market and the cost, talking at $30,000 a space for subterranean parking, and we typically would have two cars with each unit. So there's $60,000 right off the bat. And with the economy, we determined that that was not a good direction to go. And we decided to eliminate the subterranean parking and put the parking at grade. So that's the change of on the overall plan.
Is the train being underground or just under the condo?
Under the building.
Underground or just under the building?
It's under the building.
Okay.
Floods. Yeah. So these are hot off the press this afternoon. These buildings are very similar to what was already approved in terms of things like oval windows and details. They've got eyebrows here on both sides and arched windows. This will have a trellis area that will have flowering plants that grow up on there, create a nice entry area. This will be fully secured.
He's handing you the microphone.
Oh, you so this is the side that faces away from the water. So the drive to come down in here in the parking lot, come here to the entrance, go through, get on your elevator to go to your residence. There are a couple other shots that show this is basically the same view but with a little bit different angle. And you can see some of the details. This is not just a round window, but because of the nature of the trim, it has the kind of design detail that gives it some character. This is the side that faces the water, and if you could see it, you see that there are balconies and lots of windows in order to provide as much view opportunity as possible. So that's a quick summary, and I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you might have.
So that's the condos or apartments?
These will be built to condo standards, but will be leased until such time as the condominium market is revived.
And so how are you getting your loan for that then? I mean, are you on condos or apartments to get the loan, or?
No, the loan has to be based upon the income stream that can be generated. So we have a pro forma that looks at what sort of income can be generated and goes through net operating income and capitalization rates and loan to value ratios. And there's a lot that goes into it, but they will be valued from the lender's standpoint as apartments.
And where specifically where this is just one unit is going up first?
Well, actually, we're going to be doing the whole thing all at one time.
There's several like this.
There are four buildings.
4 buildings like this.
6 buildings.
6 buildings like this.
There's 3 of these, and then there's the office building, and then 3 more, so that we don't get too repetitious. Each building will be slightly different in terms of its design detail, colors, and materials.
This is on land you already own?
No, this is on land that's owned by the city, or actually the Urban Renewal Commission. And we have an option agreement with them to take this down. We have the opportunity to do it in phases. Once we decide, make the decision to go to apartments rather than condominiums, it's not unreasonable to get financing for that many units. We could probably finance 400 units.
Are you paying for the urban renewal property before you build on it?
Yes. We wouldn't be able to build on it without owning it.
In other words, you have to pay the urban renewal first.
Yes.
That if you got a loan, got started, and it didn't fly and it wasn't profitable, the city or the urban renewal would not be holding the bag.
That's true.
Yes, Randy, you said there are 6 buildings altogether. Could you give us some idea of what the footprint of a specific building might be? Are they going to be identical footprints? And what would that footprint be?
The footprints would be identical, and there's 9 units. It's 9 units wide, about 250 feet, I believe. And I'm not sure quite what the width is, in the range of 90 feet or so, I think.
90 feet, you mean?
Yeah, right.
I'm confused.
9.
I thought you said there were 6 buildings?
Six buildings with identical footprints, but each with an architectural treatment in terms of color and materials that make it look different than the one next door.
I thought I just heard you say 9 buildings. 9 buildings?
Well,
9 apartments.
Nine units.
9 units.
9 units wide.
Okay, it's about 30 feet
So the
wide.
building has, what's the basic footprint?
The dimensions? Please say.
The footprint dimensions?
250 by 90, right?
That's correct.
250 by 90?
Approximately.
That's what I heard.
Yes.
So each condo is going to be about 30 feet wide. That's 9
Yes,
to
that's
50 or a little less.
Okay. Yes.
What would the size of these units going to be?
They'll be from about 850 to about 1,400.
That's too close.
That range.
Okay.
It's actually 4 stories high, but cutting down to 3 stories on each end, and that by knocking that down, it gives a considerable amount of relief to what might otherwise be perceived as a massive building.
So is each of these condos like 2, or are they all 4? The ones you're talking about in the center, are they 4 floors to each condo, or is it 2 and then 2 on top?
No, one floor to each condo. No,
Oh, only 1 floor to each condo.
no townhouse situations. They're all flats, stacked flats.
Okay.
So there's 4 in the middle, and then
And an elevator in each building.
yes, absolutely.
Yes.
How far are each of the units going to be set back from the water? Is there still going to be a public walkway? Or is it going to be closed off to the condos?
Yes, the walkway will be intact. The usual rule is a 200-foot setback from the water's edge. That was reduced in earlier negotiations to 50 feet.
For the path of the buildings, I'm sorry.
For the distance between the water and the building.
The building, okay.
And our distance actually averages way more than 50. It averages about 170, or no, excuse me, averages about 130 feet or so.
The high water mark?
Pardon?
The high water mark, and is it set back that far?
Actually, the high water mark, ordinary high water mark, is 16.8 feet, and that gets rounded up to about 18 feet. And the measurement actually starts from that line. The water level, goes up and down with the weather.
Then, on the flooding and stuff, what's going to keep the erosion? Because flooding will happen.
Yes.
For the building, for the path, for everything.
The requirement is that the finished floor elevation, the lowest level of the lowest floor, be at least a foot above the flood level, the potential flood level, which in this case, the finished floor elevation would be at 52 feet. And there would be ample provision for ingress and egress emergency access in the event of a flood.
Kind of meant too, though, the erosion of
Soil along
the soil along the edge going down, that as it comes up, it takes things away. When it
Yeah,
goes down.
fortunately, it's not like a river situation where you have velocity. We'll have movement up and down, but there won't be any velocity to it, so whatever erosion occurs would be very slow. And
And who repairs it when it happens?
the replanting, well, it would be covered by insurance, flood insurance. And the plantings that are going to be replanted on this adjusted slope would be do their part in terms of holding all the soil together.
So these are kind of like, I know there's another question, but they're kind of like homeowners. So the responsibility is not individually, they each get flood insurance. It would be like a homeowners, and they take care of it as part of their fees.
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
It's an association of unit owners.
The mayor had his hand up a while back. Okay. Okay. Next. Yes.
You said the elevation is 52 feet. Do you know what the elevation is of the railroad tracks?
down that area.
The railroad tracks. I'm not sure. You mean across on the other side of 205? I don't know the elevation of this.
I don't know how high the water is.
Okay.
The other question is who's gonna maintain access by dredging the gravel walk?
That's still to be negotiated, I believe. I know that the city and the county work together on securing the permits from the Army Corps and the Division of State Lands. And I think there was, at one point in time, a belief that the city and the county might share in that expense. Nancy still here? Yeah. Do you want to comment on that, Nancy?
Well, the last time we were talking to the county about it, they didn't have funding to contribute to the project. And the city doesn't have funding to do the project by ourselves. So I believe that for this year it was not included in the budget, and I believe that there was hopes that we could go back in the future and try to form a partnership again in time. But the project right now is on hold.
And
We do have a permit, and we will continue to renew it.
I mean, can I just sell the walk?
That was my point.
It's very complicated.
Christine. I'm sorry, I'll get to it next. Christine.
Are these being built to standards to withstand the earthquake and liquefaction issues?
yes, that is a requirement. And it's also a requirement of the lender before they'll issue a loan. They want to make sure that all those things are well documented.
Walter.
Randy, I just want to thank you for being here and also for, I know there's a lot of experts involved behind all this, and I'm not one of those people, but I know that you're involved. You're going to help us revitalize this community with this stuff.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And this is not new for us. We've done several waterfront projects, and including several that were former industrial sites, where we were able to transform kind of an ugly mess into something of beauty. So it's our intention to do that again here.
Speaking of beauty, there's a treatment plant, a water treatment plant adjacent to the condominium. And on the regional master plan, involved, there was a buffer, kind of a public buffer between the condominiums and the treatment plant. I don't remember what the buffer actually established, what kind of buffer that is, and then form baseball fields.
The buffer is a very large berm, and it's pretty high with some good sized vegetation on it. But like you, I was very disappointed coming south on 205 and looking over to see the sort of raw cement out of the treatment plant. And when we went through the process of updating the Tri-Cities master plan, there was talk about having things that would be architecturally compatible and good looking, and maybe they're not done yet. I don't know. But I was disappointed that they fell the trees down and then you're just looking at raw concrete. So maybe there's something that can be done with lattice work and growing vines or something to sort of soften that not so attractive building face.
Randy, I'd like to thank you for removing the 30-foot sailboats and the stern wheeler from your presentation now.
Actually, the stern wheel is still a possibility.
Even with water having such a problem getting it.
You can get it in once.
Yeah.
On high wall.
Whatever it is.
Can I ask one? Then, so you will build the building before the gravel is removed?
That's a separate issue.
So you can build, and you could possibly, you may build with that here, where the water level may be low, other than right now.
Yes.
Okay.
After you appreciate that, I have questions for tonight.
You haven't stopped me in 46 years, you ain't gonna stop me.
One more in the back, I'm sorry.
I think you had mentioned something about recreation. I look at the area is full of potential for recreational opportunities. I was just curious what your plans were.
Thank you. I went over that, or didn't go over that, I skipped it. But the idea is to have an extensive array of different recreational opportunities. I was by the site on Saturday, and there was somebody giving lessons in how to ride your kayak after it goes upside down. And there were a couple big inflatables out there, and canoes and other kayaks. And I was glad to see people really making use of it. There's more activity out there than I had seen in the 4 or 5 years we've been working on this. But one of the things we did at Oswego Point in Lake Oswego was built a water sports center, and there it houses the big crew boats, the 8s and the 4s, and that doesn't really make sense for the cove because just about the time they got up to speed they'd have to turn around. And it could be a good opportunity for youth sailing activities and boating safety classes. And the other thing that we want to do is have a float and a gang walk down to a place where you can store kayaks and canoes, and you can lock up there, but have easy access to it. People tend to use those things a lot more if it's convenient for them. So that would be our intention in terms of doing another water sports center.
What are our plans to how to easy access to the water, even with all of this investing?
Yeah, we've got drawings that show the pathway that goes down to the. Yeah, right here. It shows the pathway down and then a float, and that would be where we would keep kayaks and canoes. Oh. One thing that we did here was create a nature preserve and restrict. There would be buoys out here that would restrict it to no weight and no more than 5 miles an hour, and no motorized vehicles in the vicinity of the wildlife preserve.
Gotta be careful with fast kayaks. Okay. Okay, there you go.
Thank you very much.
Anyone wants to go over the minutes?
Well, I tried to be briefer this month. Still takes about 3 hours to do these things, and how brief I should be. And thanks, Chris, for getting these out. I hope that everyone's had a chance to read these. Do we have any comments on these minutes?
I move that we accept the minutes. Second. All those in favor? Or is there any questions? All those in favor of approving the minutes from the last meeting, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain. Passed. Moving right along to Nancy.
All right, thank you. Well, tonight I have a number of things I wanted to report out on. Some of you may be aware that some of the Main Street organization folks have been dialoguing with ODOT to make some improvements or at least clean the tunnel, the railroad overcrossing that crosses 99 E McLaughlin Boulevard downtown. And if you look at it, it's really a beautiful historic structure with some very nice detailing on it, except it's just gotten deteriorated through the years. And there are some environmental concerns with doing anything to it because I think it might have some lead paint. But I'm happy to report that ODOT has put it in their maintenance list for the summer, and they're going to be cleaning it. So it probably will be looking a lot nicer after that's over. And they were suggesting that they could be starting within the next couple of weeks. So that's very exciting. And then I also wanted to report that the elevator hours are now extended in the evening to 9:30 on Wednesday through Saturday. So that enables, if you're going to a function, there's a lot of downtown functions in the summertime. And so the elevator actually goes till 9:30, which allows more people to walk to downtown and not have to drive. The other thing I wanted to announce on behalf of ODOT is they have their 2014-2015 statewide transportation improvement program, has been drafted. And if you're at all interested in looking at the projects that they're going to be funding or they're proposing for funding, they have a website, and I'll ask Chris to send out the link to that. But this year, better than ever, they're doing a really great job with their public outreach. They've always done it, but they've really technologically come a long ways this year with a website that's very active, and you can go in and look at maps and find out what they're doing. And you do not have to go to a public meeting like you used to have to. They still have 3 within the Portland area, but you can also review and make comments via the web. So we'll be sending that out. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is that everybody, all residents, everybody who has an address in Oregon City will be receiving their 2011 water quality report. Now this is a document that is required by the EPA, but what our water quality coordinator has done is try to not just stick to the basic regulations of EPA, but also to provide other educational materials, and not just limited to drinking water, but also introduce some of our stormwater quality topics and how just water quality overall relate to not just drinking water, but also just natural resources water as well. So it's, you may not want to get bogged down in all the details, but I really encourage you to take a quick look at it or read it cover to cover, for that matter, when you get it. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is last month when I was here, I mentioned that we would have our 2011 Pavement Management Utility Fund projects ready to publish the map of at this meeting, and indeed I did bring that. I brought a few of the 11 by 17 size, but I didn't want to waste too much paper on that because you may or may not really want to look at it that much detail. But I did bring 20 copies of the 8.5 by 11, which we can just go ahead and pass around. You can take it with you, and if you have any questions about any of these locations, just feel free to contact me. And if you want a bigger copy, oh yes.
Is there going to be a list as well as the diagram?
Tom would like one of those as well.
Right now we have the map. So I'm trying to think quickly if there's anything else. I think that pretty much covers it for things that I'm aware of you'd be interested in knowing about. And if you have any questions, please ask.
Yeah, how about Main Street? We had 3 projects that were going on down there. How's the status of that?
Main Street projects, we just combined 2 of them into one to hopefully make things go a little more smoothly. That comes with the second part. So in August, you'll see beginning the downtown circulations, recirculation, turning Main Street back to 2 ways, and the 10th and Main pedestrian improvements project. That will begin the second week of August. And then our project for the Main Street sidewalks and new lighting is at about 70% design right now. And that'll begin, that'll go out to bid next September/October.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Yes.
I noticed that Leland Road isn't lined up at all. Is that project going to ever get finished?
Yes, we're waiting for, and we're getting it now, but there's quite a bit of paving that needs to be done, and we want to make sure that we get good quality paving. If the weather isn't right, if it's too wet, they've got to do some grinding and then pave. They've been basically awaiting good weather, which we have now. So if you'd like, I neglected to ask the project manager on a quick update on that today, Ingra, and I will do that, and I can send it out in an email with Chris. I know that they were setting a final schedule, so that's we'll get that out to you.
And John Lewis will be talking about that project at the Tower Vista reactivation meeting on Wednesday, so you can attend that meeting.
Okay. Yes.
Yes, Leland Road. Between where Lynn stops and then going over to where last year was supposedly they were going to do all the work because it was the worst road in Oregon City? Well, they did parts of it.
That's what we were just talking about.
It's not finished yet. It's not finished yet. But when they're done with their final paving, you'll see in the next couple of weeks, that will be it. So if there's parts of it that didn't get done, there wasn't enough money. But we tried to stretch as much as we could to get little wider shoulders.
It was when the sign was put up, it looked like it was not going to be that long of a project.
No, it turned out to be very much longer than we expected because of some unanticipated underground utilities that caused us huge delays. Yeah. Those doggone underground utilities.
Second Tom O'Brien was up. We don't see them on our board here tonight when they push the button to speak. So Tom, I guess, has been there for a while. Go ahead, Tom.
Nancy, I wanted to compliment you and your department on that water quality report. That is the finest report that I've ever seen, and I've seen a number of them. So
Thanks a lot. I'll pass that on.
it's a terrifically well done.
Okay, David, and then back there. David, did you have your hand up? Or was that back there? Okay.
Is there a website or someplace that
I'm sorry, Ben.
what the preventive maintenance items are? Did I see my street on here for preventive maintenance? I'm just curious what you're going to be doing.
We are in the process of putting this information on our web page on the Oregon City website. And which street are you on?
I'm on Colbert.
I'm not sure if that will be a slurry seal or, but it's probably a slurry seal. And we can, if you can give me your contact information, I can let you know exactly what it is.
No, Captain.
He asked my question.
Okay, then never mind. Was there any other questions before we move on? Okay, great. They went that way.
They took them.
Sorry.
I can make more copies, Phil.
Okay, moving on to new business, old business is next on the agenda. I see a lot of the committee reports and things actually that are under new business really are old business we've been talking about for a while. But there's nothing listed, and so let's go right to the new business, which is old business. The CIC retreat, I may have to combine something down below with that. Whose idea was it? I think it was Williams, the retreat.
Ray, actually.
Ray? I'm not sure what you all wanted or expected out of a retreat, but I have a suggestion here that we might kill two birds with one stone, so to speak. I don't mean that, sorry. I could propose, I was talking with Chris today, July 4th is the next Monday, the first Monday in July. And so we postponed our meeting until July 11th. But it turns out July 11th is the Planning Commission here. And what I'd like to propose to everyone is getting together as a work session. And we'll do it at the police station where we've had these meetings previously. This is not a reflection on anything in the past or any controversies, but what I think after listening to the city council recently and other things that have come up, I think it would be really interesting for all our neighborhoods to get together with our bylaws and kind of go through them and to see where they're similar and what things we may need to adopt to make them similar or cover all our situations. And I know we've had it on our plan here to go over the bylaws of the CIC, and it might be timely for all of us to discuss that. I know that the legal attorney for the city is going to be looking at some of the wording, but it might really behoove us to get together and discuss some of our bylaws.
I think it's a good idea, Tom. When we chatted about this before, we were imagining this sort of in lieu of our regular monthly meeting. So it would be more like first rolled up for a work session. My concern, or perhaps the mayor can help me with this, is that still considered a public meeting in the fact that anyone would be able to join? And of course, it would be open to anybody, but well, would we need to publish an agenda? Would we need to take minutes? Does it need to be recorded?
I have no problem doing that in advance.
Nancy, I would probably be the one to ask. Yeah.
It's not meant to be a controversial subject. It's meant to be more supportive of each other and finding ways that we should be similar. We found out that the city had originally created a lot of these bylaws, and some of us have made changes and adjustments to those, and maybe it's time we revisit that as a group and say, what do we need as additions?
Okay, a twofold on that. I agree with you that work session, whether I get to come or not, but the other issue then, well, the other issue is, I went down to the neighborhood rural
Files.
and South End Neighborhood Association's papers are gone. They were not, what Chris found, she was wonderful, she found stuff, but it was Mary Palmer's, where it was like stacks of, bylaws, you know, it was a draft, and then a draft in 2000 when they were adopted, and Karen is looking in the papers that she never took down there, thank God, but hopefully she has up their bylaws. But at this moment, they don't have their final bylaws. I gave them to John, what I found there, but somebody's going down there and got rid of those 2 boxes that belong to another neighborhood association.
Well, let me reiterate here that the idea here is that when I went out to look at the internet, several neighborhoods do have them on the city website, some don't, but it's a good time for everybody to start digitalizing a lot of their work and keeping it available somewhere on the internet or somewhere with the city or with Chris. And again, this is just part of that workshop. What can we do to improve our systems? And this is not a reflection, as I said, on anything. It's just, let's get together and discuss those and what we should have in our bylaws. And
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we go ahead and have a work session on July 11th at the police station.
Any questions, or do you all kind of like that idea?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Then it's done. Oh, I've got to take a vote. Sorry. All those in favor of holding a work session for our July meeting, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All those abstain? See you at the work session. Who's bringing cookies?
So I don't but they do need to bring up that what's in that office. It shouldn't be thrown out unless you ask that neighborhood.
Okay, let's talk about that evening. But please come prepared, and we'll send this out to Chris. Bring a set of your bylaws from your community, from your neighborhood, and kind of understand them, read them ahead of time so you're familiar with them. I never been so familiar as I am now with a lot of different bylaws and areas. Yes, Chris.
Under the
fire department area.
There was a large flooding that you probably were aware of, and will happen again in that basement. And I remember, you recall this, and all everyone moved into one room. And I'm sure that
The fire department moved them into that room, and there were a lot of things that were damaged. It would have been nice if they would have told us about them. If they were.
Do you think they got rid of them yet?
Well, that time that I called.
So they were on top of the shelf. They were on the very top of that, where mine are.
Well,
the one where-
let's discuss it.
Yeah, we can do that at the work session. Yes, Chris.
When I went down there, to the fire station to look for that room's a mess.
I know it.
But,
that's another project.
I have a good scanner on our copier machine at the PD. So if anyone wants their neighborhood information scanned, if you will get it ready by, removing all the staples and getting it ready, and putting it in order the way it should be, I'll scan them. So.
Do you know what the size of your scanner is? At 8.5 by 11?
Oh, it'll do.
Part of the reason I ask is I think there's some charters for each neighborhood, and sometimes I don't know where all of them are. Some of the neighborhoods may not. It would be either nice to keep those in one central location, maybe at City Hall where people can see them, or at least scan them in their size, because I know they're bigger than 8.5 by 11, so we have those also on the internet.
But if you can do the hard work of, removing all the staples and how you want them labeled, and so they're all in order, I can get that done. So that would help probably clean up that room some.
So I brought this up, and the idea of if we didn't know what we were going to discuss at a retreat for this year that we talked about, this might be the way to have our retreat. We get to talk about our neighborhoods. Yes, Paul.
I don't know if it's this is the time under new business, but I think it's appropriate that we have a discussion on the events that happened at Park Place neighborhood, because the integrity of this body and the Goal One process that we try to meet has been placed into jeopardy by the violation of one man, one vote type process. And when the integrity of a vote is brought into question, I just want to find out where do we discuss this, because I think it needs to be discussed and soon. And I, in fact, have a resolution that I would like to be able to present based upon that.
Well, Paul, I think the best way to handle that one at this point is, rather than discuss it here, is let's discuss that when we're talking about bylaws and what's appropriate. And then if we all feel at some point after that, at the next CIC or somehow, we can do that. But let's first just sit together, discuss bylaws, and bring that up as an issue if you'd like. But it's more probably beneficial to us to move forward. We can't change some of the stuff in the past, no matter how we'd all like to, or whoever would like to. But I think the best thing is for us to discuss this at that work session. How do you feel about that?
I still, the integrity of this body has been put into jeopardy as a result. And I think it's, I think it's very, very important, and I applaud what the city commission said and did about asking for mediation, and fully support that. But yet at the same time, when we have representatives coming into this to become members of this body, and they come into this body and they may not be representative as or in a sense legal,
right?
That it for them to be part of the process in a Goal One world makes things pretty difficult. And for as an individual, I find this to be when the electoral process is violated or has no integrity, then I become very concerned.
I understand. I appreciate that. I think it's not a reflection on anybody in the CIC of this room, because they have nothing to do with what happened in our area. But I think that's something that, again, we can discuss by bylaws. Bylaws are written, and if they're whether we like some of them or not, they're there. And again, I don't think anybody in this room had anything to do with that. That's just between us and Park Place. And again, you know how I feel about a lot of this, but I'm trying to remain that we got to move forward at some point. So, Kathy, did you have a comment? Again, Paul, not to put down anything you're saying, Paul. I appreciate where you're coming from.
Well, I do have my book from going to the class for resolution disputes and how to do it. So if anybody wants to know and how to get in contact, I can let them know.
Well, let's discuss all this at the bylaws and all that, and if anything should be said,
that's a good place to put it.
Okay, Paul?
Does that mean then that
don't know yet.
We have to, I'm just concerned about people being seated or being positioned or to say that you're representing a neighborhood. We have an election that may not be appropriate.
Well, to be clear here, nobody can be an officer in Park Place unless they're a resident of Park Place. And whether the issue of non-residents or not, that wasn't clarified in bylaws at a time, but nobody who's a representative of Park Place is not an officer. I mean, it's not a resident.
Well, I'm concerned about one man, one vote.
I understand.
Okay, when you have more votes and you have people supposed to be voting.
Okay, I think we've gone through.
We're going to discuss this in our section, the bylaws. Okay, thank you all. What the heck is community-based urban renewal planning? My mind is.
That was the presentation that Denise gave last meeting regarding what had been done in Beaverton. And I think that a number of us have gone to the Beaverton website and taken a look at the process that they went through. And I'm not exactly sure where we're going to be going with this.
Is she coming back?
I think we table it at this point.
The process is to look at should the City of Oregon City, greater than the Urban Renewal Commission, look at the whole area of Oregon City. Urban Renewal Commission is going to have currently set aside funds for in effect a community vision of its urban renewal plan area. But this is greater than that because obviously it only represents a small segment of the total of Oregon City. And we have literally the whole hilltop. And we've got to take a look at it. And this really comes back to prioritization. And there is a request before that will be probably brought up in the work session tomorrow of the City Commission to discuss funding of a community-based vision plan. But the urban renewal plan in itself is already in the budget and it's been approved.
So there's no action we need to take right now.
No, if it's not dated, let's move on.
That's right.
The Land Use Committee. I think it was your proposal that we create a Land Use Committee for the CIC.
It seems to me as though one of the major issues.
On the last one, I thought what happened in the last meeting that we planned that we were all going to actually research it and learn about it ourselves. So
I'm not sure.
I know. I would task us to actually do that sometime before another meeting. So this is a significant opportunity for us as a.
How about this?
It's not just focused on urban renewal and economic. It's focused on the entire community and all angles of it. So it's. I thought that Denise's presentation was amazing, and I also went to your meeting and she discussed it some more. And I think that it's an opportunity that we all could, if we can find 5 minutes to go on that website. I printed out a copy here if you want to see it and brought it tonight. So it's something that we probably should really, as a body.
How about this?
And I think she took a lot of time to bring this to us.
Chris, is it possible, because I know you sent out the minutes and the agendas, could maybe within a week or 2 weeks, we send out a reminder to everyone to take a look at that and give it in the website? Yeah, so everybody will refresh their minds and then.
Yeah, make it a link to the website.
Yeah, good idea. I'm going to pass it around though, just see what wants.
You're right, she did say that, so. All right, moving into the Land Use Committee, I think it was your proposal that I know several times I've received things in the mail and I've handed them to you because you're more in depth on some of those things that are happening in the various areas, but you wanted to have a Land Use Committee of our group like we have in neighborhoods.
It seems like a reasonable proposal, and I don't know
so.
why it wasn't particularly in the bylaws, the original CIC, that there be a couple people that can handle the land use applications rather than, I know that the neighborhood associations themselves deal with those, but for those things that are within the boundaries of just the CIC, they've just been landing in your lap. And if you want to continue doing it, that's fine with me.
Perhaps that needs to be discussed at the workshop.
Yes, because it's one of the bylaws, as he said, it's not in there, so it may be something, because I also talked to Damon about the bylaws, and I'll get into that in a minute.
Great.
So let's discuss it
So
at that time.
that's another topic for the,
Okay?
when we're talking about the bylaws, we may as well
Yep,
be talking about.
because that's an addition to them.
Andy.
Committee reports, the Geological Symposium Committee, say it fast, Will, 10 times, real fast.
Do it.
Nancy?
Well, okay, because everybody else is not volunteering. We had our third meeting, and right now we are in the process of making final arrangements for 2 community forums. One will be in October, and that will discuss the geologic hazards and landslides for the Oregon City and greater metropolitan area. And then the second one will be in November, and at that one there will be presentations to help inform people about earthquakes and emergency preparedness.
And we have the tentative okay from the Oregon City School District that we'll be able to use the Jackson Campus Auditorium, where we anticipate that it will be filmed and recorded and available to people. And the dates that we have, our working dates right now are October 13th and November 10th. Those are second Thursdays in October and November.
Okay.
And there's other things that are going on. We're working on getting door prizes and sponsors and.
Yep, we've all been assigned tasks with duties. How Christine Kaczynski's doing a list of invitees and trying to identify everybody who we want to make sure knows about it. Paul Edgar is working on the raffle prizes, and Steve Van Heberich and I have been working on getting guest speakers as well as Christine. And going through all the reservations at the high school and contacting the chamber, contacting a whole bunch of people.
College and the county and the fire
To see if they want to have a role and what role that might be, so.
Do you have a date for that yet? Did I hear that?
Yes, you did.
Sorry. I was thinking.
October 13th and November 10th.
Second Thursday
Thursday.
in October, second Thursday in November.
Third Thursday in October.
Is it the third Thursday?
The 15th is the third.
Oh,
it's the 13th.
That's the 13th.
Are they gonna be the same on both ones, or are they gonna be a little bit different on each one? So if you're missing one, you can get the other.
The first one. The October forum is about landslides in
Okay.
Oregon City and the greater
I was
Oregon
listening.
City area. And the second one is on earthquakes and emergency preparedness.
I was thinking ahead. Sorry. Stop thinking. Okay. Next, the bylaw review committee. As I said, I talked to Damon a little bit about it, and reading the bylaws of the CIC, they're pretty complete. There's a few things that we need to add, and we can talk about it at that time. And I'll tell you more later. Video opportunities.
Nada.
Yeah, we've been waiting for, I think, Willamette Media Center to Mount Hood.
Oh, the freeze over.
Yeah. So that's the holding pattern. Let's talk about reactivation and neighborhood associations. Gaffney Lane and Tower Vista.
Okay.
Chris, is that you?
Susan Winshaw again.
On this coming Wednesday at the Ainsworth House, 7 p.m., we are having the first reactivation meeting for Tower Vista. So we would encourage the CIC members here to attend with us, because it always seems to just be William and I. So John Lewis will be the guest speaker, and he will be talking to the group about the Leland Road project. So that seemed to be of interest to a bunch of you. So hopefully some of you can attend.
At the Ainsworth House, 7 p.m. Two nights from tonight.
Wednesday, 7 p.m. Ainsworth.
And that's for a listening audience as well.
Okay. Okay, that moves us to roundtable. And as you see, Chris put on here, please limit your comments to 1 minute. We got the timer going. What we're going to try and suggest is, if it's already on this calendar, you don't need to repeat it to everyone about the meetings because they can see it. So roundtable should be more of something important that's not mentioned or that you need to say. So let's do so. Unless you really have to announce your meeting. Let's start with Larry.
Caulfield is going to go to monthly meetings. There'll be a meeting, and every other month it'll be a steering meeting. And our next meeting, Chris, I think you were asking me on email, is June 28th here, or at the police station. August 23rd, we haven't got a location yet because we're trying not to tie up the police.
That's fine.
Is it okay? Okay, then we'll do it at the police station.
Yeah, I'll just put them all on the calendar.
Okay, thank you.
Tom.
Yes.
One that for Steve.
Just a question on, you having a PPNA steering committee meeting on June 20th?
This is an awkward place to ask that question. I'm not sure yet. Depends if the rest of the steering committee still wants to be the steering committee or if they're all resigning. I haven't been able to talk to them yet. And so I'd have to get back to you on that.
I was trying to determine whether there was going to be.
Yeah, and it's scheduled, I mean, it should be scheduled, but I have to find out if I have enough people to hold one. Until I pass it on. Okay, Mark, Paul.
I'll pass.
September will be our next neighborhood meeting, and I'm still working with Phil Stocking. I brought things to show that I made for the vets. And Phil Stocking, they're our wheelchair bags. And then these are the Christmas stockings that we made. And then these are the bags that we put hiking products in for the vets hospital at Christmas time for the giveaway else.
Christmas, I haven't got through Halloween yet.
I'm doing 3,000 Christmas stockings.
Ingrid.
Well, in South End neighborhood, when we met with the Hazel Grove Western Farm, some of the people in the South End neighborhood wanted to change their meeting 4 times a month, or 4 times a year rather than 5 times a year. And So they're looking for our bylaws because it was pointed out that it should be in the bylaws and they'd have to change the bylaws. So that's one of the concerns in the neighborhood.
David? Any, next?
Bruce Danielson, Rivercrest neighborhood. We're discussing whether or not.
Ooh, is there a microphone available for him? Because we're not going to be.
You want to step over to their microphone?
Where's the handheld mic?
It's right here.
Hold on.
No, I don't think so. Just identify yourself, please.
Bruce Danielson, Rivercrest neighborhood.
Thank you.
The neighborhood association is discussing whether or not we'll continue doing the Easter egg hunt at Rivercrest Park. So, any neighborhood with a park that's interested, we'd like to hear from you.
Ooh, thank you.
That's bad.
Laughlin neighborhood, I just need to correct your
This is the microphone, please.
Yeah. Can somebody,
Or step up here, yeah.
Here you go.
I'm sorry, otherwise it just doesn't come out on that recording.
Ordinarily, the McLaughlin neighborhood would be meeting on the 7th of July, but that is the month that the concerts in the park start, and we always participate in that. So we will be meeting on the 6th, if you need to, at the Carnegie Center.
Carnegie Center.
it should be on, shouldn't it, still?
You have to go to the top of that thing, it sounds like.
I think we don't hear it in the room. I think they just hear it on the recording. Is that correct?
I don't.
Because no one. Who's next? Any out there? Yes, sir. Yes, Jim. Not sir. It's just Jim. Sir Jim.
Good evening. Jim Nisita, Commission President, McLaughlin resident. I'm going to repeat something that I repeated during my commission comment last week, and I'm going to repeat again in my commissioner letter to folks because I'm very excited about this. Today, I made my inaugural voyage as a commuter on Amtrak. I found out, spurred on by $4 a gallon gasoline, did some research trying to escape that burden, and found out that on our Amtrak route between here and downtown Portland, Amtrak sells an unlimited monthly pass for $58.
Really?
Yes. And it is $58 for a monthly pass, unlimited between our Amtrak station here and downtown Portland. And I want to say a few things about it because I think it's really neat, and I think we could really.
You got a minute.
Okay. I'll try to talk fast. It generally works as commuter schedule. It leaves at about 7:15, 7:20 in the morning, and it only takes 20 minutes. It's a rocket on rails. I was flabbergasted. 25 minutes. It went in this morning. They have a bistro. I was able to buy coffee. Didn't even have time to finish it because we got downtown before I finished my cup of coffee. On the return trip tonight, they actually have a restaurant because it's part of a longer route. It's generally in the morning it's between Eugene and Portland. It might be from Seattle down to Eugene in the evening. The route home doesn't leave downtown till about 6:15, so that may be an issue for some commuters. But here's the other neat thing about this. Once you're in Portland, right outside the historic Union Station, you step out and you're in the Fairless Square of the metro system. So you can, if you're a commuter, you can get off the train and then hop on a MAX train, take it free all the way out to Lloyd Center. You take the streetcar. I don't know exactly where the Fairless Square is for that, but if you an office worker,
Listen, you might clarify fairless.
Fairless, free. So aside from the $58 deal, you can, once you're there, ride around. If you work in an office building somewhere or work downtown, get from the Union Station anywhere downtown or out to Lloyd Center for free too. And I mentioned the bistro, and there's also, I found out tonight on my ride, they have wireless on the Amtrak station. So for this price, it was a different world for me. seeing the world from a different perspective, zipping up and down on that direct line, and I think my mind's churning with how we could develop a really exciting rail culture. And yeah, I was surprised. I've never seen even a newspaper ad on this deal.
It actually could be promoted in.
By travel agents here in Oregon City, I mean, all kinds of things.
What time does
yeah.
it leave in the morning?
What's that?
What time in the morning does it depart?
So about 7:24, gets in about 7:45, 7:50.
Senator Merkley takes it.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the morning?
Well, on this route, the 7:24 in the morning, and then the 6:15 coming home, there are other trains that actually don't stop in Oregon City. There's a later one, I think that leaves Portland at like 9 at night, and there may be some other ones, but generally, as far as a commuter route, just by the timing of Amtrak, it works. It can work as a commuter rail system, especially when you have, you're not stranded at Union Station when you get there. There's ways to get to your work for free once you're there. So it's really neat. So
I think the federal government has some way of telling us about this.
Hey, well, I see all kinds of opportunity. I mentioned, I think in my communication last week, my first view of Oregon City was from the Coast Starlight. The window of the Coast Starlight, I looked out and saw these, amazing waterfalls and wanted to get off, couldn't get off because that train doesn't stop here. So Bill mentioned high-speed rail. I would love to see if we open up Willamette Falls as part of the redevelopment of Blue Heron to tourists to feel the thunder, that will help us land that high-speed railroad in the future. Like I said, my mind's just going crazy with neat ways to think about the train. So, thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
I'm officer.
There are 4 board vacancies. 3 of them aren't quite so critical because one's for the budget committee, the other one's for the Oregon City Civic and Trust Board, the other one's for the Metro Enhancement Board, and they've all done their work on those in the last 2 months. They won't be meeting for almost another year. But the other one is for the Kanema position on the Historic Review Board. So if you can take the word back, legally involved to Kanema to indicate we need somebody from Kanema on the Historic Review Board.
I've been out walking the neighborhood.
Very good. Thank you.
Already.
Yes. Sure.
On behalf of the Community Development Department too, they've just recently advertised the restarting the Natural Resources Committee.
Right.
So please, if people have interest in that, there's information on our website.
Rachel.
On June 24th, the Chamber is hosting a offenders event called Swinging with the Pioneers. It's a golf event. It's from 11:30 to 7:30 at Oregon City Golf Club. $115 a person. That includes your green fees, cart, lunch, dinner, and there's prizes and awards at the end of the night.
Both of those. Our next one is July 12th, and we've had a 200% increase for our last meeting, but then we had a real poor showing for just to clean up our little island there a couple Saturdays ago. But I wanted to go back to we never really discussed in the last meeting. There's an old business here about there was a Metro Enhancement grant for the trailer and equipment. Whatever happened with that number?
It was not funded. There were too many other projects that got in front of us.
Chris?
But we will follow through with that for next year.
Nancy? William?
A couple things. First of all, thank you, Commissioner Nacita, for that report. By the way, it's amtrak.com is their website.
1-800-USA-RAIL.
Or 1-800-USA-RAIL, as in R-A-I-L rather than R-A-L-E. Sorry. I had a couple of things. One is the teddy bear parade was a big success, and I was pleased with that. And a thought occurred to me as my wife and I were walking behind the parade as it was all finished. There's a lot of candy all over the streets and so on. And then a thought occurred to me, wouldn't it be fun to have the CIC participate in the teddy bear parade and have each neighborhood hold up a little sign saying, you know, we're the best neighborhood, and have the CIC basically clean up all that candy. And you know, give it away the next year, of course. But I thought it'd be nice. You know, we've never really billed ourselves as a service organization, and we aren't per se. But part of the bylaws of the neighborhood association say that in addition to land use issues, we do serve a social capacity. And it seems to me, to show that we're good neighbors, it would be nice for us to participate in something once in a while. So I'm just going to plant that seed. We've got, you know, still a couple months before next year's teddy bear parade, but just generally, anybody think that that might be an interesting idea to walk in the parade? And
I would like to point out that we are involved in National Night Out.
Yes, that's true. That's true. That's true. And secondly, and speaking of being involved in the community, upcoming now this summer is upon us. We have the farmers market. And the last couple of years, we have scheduled a CIC booth at the farmers market, typically on the fourth Saturdays of each month during the summer. And we put on a booth, and we have a map like this neighborhood association map, and we have people put stickers where they live, and we get sign-ups, and we've gotten some interest in the neighborhood associations by doing that, just basically to raise our profile in the city as to we're neighbors looking out for each other. And I'm suggesting that we do that again. Now, as I recall, we've had some spotty attendance at that. Mostly Damon and I, as I recall, were the ones that and you did a couple, and I think Paul did some, and anybody else that would like to, because with your all consensus, I'd like to contact Jackie Hammond-Williams and ask her if we can have a space at the farmers market on the fourth Saturdays. Is there consensus to that? It's appropriate. Okay, it's appropriate, and I will. I'll contact Jackie, and then we'll send out some sign-up sheets. And I think what we were doing was taking two-hour shifts, and I'll get there and set it up, and I'll take it all down too. Okay. Yes.
And now that Williams mentioned the Saturday farmers market, I want to remind everybody that on Wednesday evenings from now until I think the end of September or something, we've got a market downtown on 8th Street, and it's really lots of fun, and it's got great stuff to try out, and so please come and join us. Use the elevator, right?
Okay, I guess I get the final comments. 5 minutes to 9. I think we're going to get out of here because I'll make this brief. I'm trying to watch the time tonight. We were just trying to make sure that these meetings are a little bit shorter because we don't need to go on. And I mean no disrespect to anybody that I was saying about timing, or even to cut Paul off on his comments. I appreciated the fact that that's something dear to my heart, and I've been very emotional about it. But I feel we could have carried on that conversation, that debate, until probably 10 o'clock tonight if we had gotten into that subject. And I think we could better do that in that other forum. So, I'm sorry?
Probably till 10 o'clock tomorrow night.
Yeah, probably. And trust me, I could have gone on for probably longer, yes. But Paul, I appreciate that, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who would like to discuss it, but I think we can do that in the realm of the bylaws. And I also plan on bringing it before the CIC once we discuss these, that we need something in our own CIC bylaws for grievances of neighborhoods, that if you have a problem in your neighborhood, rather than taking it to the city council, neighborhoods can come right here to us and discuss this as a neighborhood group and resolve our issues in our different neighborhoods rather than bothering the city when they have other things to take care of. In closing, I just want to make the comment that last Saturday night, I got the pleasure of emceeing the Starlight Parade with Commissioner Rocky Smith Jr. I never got tongue-tied that night like that. He announced 2 and then gave up thinking that his voice was not carrying. But it was a great time. I usually have a microphone and I walk the crowd and do trivia. We did trivia about Oregon City. He wanted to make sure everyone knew that before it was PG, the PG parade, it was the Oregon City Electric Company. And every time he turned around, he had another Oregon City trivia. It was really neat. And then he got down there, and Mr. Art Teacher had all the kids down there with chalk drawing on the whole roadway. It was great on the street. It was fun to do it with him. And I understand this weekend I'll be emceeing the ground floor of the same corner, Fourth and Stark. And I understand Dr. McLaughlin's going to be walking the streets. Mayor, excuse me.
sign while working for.
So we can Fourth and Stark, when you get to that area, you'll probably. In the Rose Festival Parade, it started a few years ago. They get all the mayors to walk together, and so I try to read as many as I can, and I'm sure you'll be standing heads above everyone else, so I'll make sure to point you out to everyone.
I point out that the president, Truesdale, on the committee call, was supposed to be my guest. She informed me that she had walked with pneumonia.
Oh.
Said, so you prefer to walk with pneumonia than
But we did it's been a popular corner. Last year we had city manager Dave down there, and Jim and Rocky and other ones. It's on 4th and Stark. That's my corner for the last 8 years. So come on down if you want to see everybody walk. Yes.
Before you leave, with each neighborhood, come get your packet. It is, if you could please give it to the person that takes care of your newsletter and postcards. It shows what your budget will be beginning July 1, and it also has the forms in there that need to be filled out when you send stuff in. So I have them for everybody. All by neighborhood.
And it's 8:58, and I call this meeting to a close. Thank you.
I want to see you.
Thanks for you. Thank you, sir.
That's for next year, right?
Here, William.
Thank you.
Starting July 1. Okay.
Who's that?